So here's some of our key concepts. So non-pathologizing. So I still work with the phrase disease, you know, because I come from the 12-step background. But I looked up what disease meant in the dictionary, and it actually means a state of imbalance. And I think that really works, because when someone comes in, we don't really know, they may be alcoholic or have an eating disorder, but there's a variety of factors that are contributing to their problems. So early on in his career, Richard Schwartz developed this meta frameworks model for evaluating clients. And that's what I use. I look at the social and the cultural background, what's going on biologically when I work with someone. I don't look at them as genetically defective. I see that genes can play a part in how we respond to things, but there's really more to the picture than that. And I think that this approach really helps people not see themselves as broken when we don't pathologize. So I was first introduced to the idea that I'm separate from my addiction when I did some, actually I think did some experiential piece down at Sierra Tucson years ago doing something down there on a referent weekend. And just that sense of I'm not a horrible person because I'm a heroin addict, that there's a real me in there somewhere underneath that heroin addiction is really powerful for folks. You know, I've been noticing with teenagers that we have coming in lately that they've become really pathologized and thinking themselves as these mentally ill defectives. And when I took a poll in the teen group that I do with my one of my coworkers, my colleagues, every one of the girls in the group came from an addictive family system with some extreme stuff going on. And a lot of it wasn't wanting to be owned. And as they began to look at what was really happening for them, they had actually adapted, parts of them had adapted to the environment that they were brought up in, and required them to be, you know, ill in order to really keep the system floating. So it's really sort of a real awakening when they realize that there's something outside there besides them being the sick person. I know when I grew up in my ACOA family, I thought something was really wrong with me, and it wasn't until I really recognized the bigger picture of addiction that I realized, yeah, I am a little crazy, but I'm not that crazy. So, so it's a relief to not pathologize on one hand, and on the other hand, I do know that it was also a relief when they first, in the big book, recognized alcoholism as an addiction, as a disease, because it took us away from that whole moral judgment thing. So when I say non-pathologizing, I'm not putting us back into moral judgment. I'm just putting us into the fact that we're more than that piece of us. I've mentioned before IFS is integrative, so it's really attractive to me that I don't have to give up what I knew. You know, as a matter of fact, things that I knew before, I've been able to take and add IFS into it and make it so much better. If I do a cognitive sheet with someone in my group, I ask them, so tell me what parts of you are coming up about doing this sheet. You know, if someone has requested a homework assignment and I give it to them and they come in and they haven't done it, I'll say, so tell me what came up for you about doing that, not doing that work. And I do it in a way that I'm not judging them. And people really like that. So you can definitely integrate. You don't have to throw stuff out. I'm going to talk to you about befriending. This is a big piece. This is a big change. What I've been noticing, you know, when we work with addictions and eating disorders is that we demonize those parts of people. It's bad, it's evil, it's a demon. Most people say it's a demon or something awful. And a lot of energy is spent trying to get rid of it. And in IFS, we actually do something called befriending the part. So we want to get to know it better. I found it to be much more helpful to get to know my addictions and how they work so that I can be aware of when it's in my life versus just trying to avoid it and kick it out the door. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. I'm going to do a little drawing. When I say that we're befriending it, we're diffusing what we call a polarization. So if you were to push your hands together really tight like this, just try that for a second. Yeah, what happens? Just keep holding your hands like that. Resistance, yeah, and exhaustion, right? And that's what it's like when you're a clinician trying to get this person to stop doing this behavior. You just get more resistance. Or if the person who's coming in and they've been on a bender all weekend is doing nothing but shaming and criticizing themselves, it just leads back to more using. So I'll show you in a diagram in a minute. So we work on what they call diffusing those polarizations. I talked to you about unburdening. This is essential. After people get more into recovery and aren't using anymore, we really have to do some work with these parts. That if not, how many of you have ever had someone after like 18 years or something, you know, the star of the AA program relapse for no known reason? I have. The reason why is because something happened that triggered something old inside of them that they hadn't been aware of. Or maybe they'd been three-stepping all the way through their recovery. And three-stepping means they never did an inventory, right? In IFS, we would be looking at parts. In the 12 steps, it's doing an inventory, but it's the same thing. And they hadn't gone all the way through the steps and really let go of all that stuff they were holding. IFS gives us a way to actually augment the steps by bringing that person to a place where they can let go of that stuff energetically. So they're not just doing it cognitively, they're energetically letting go of it. So we do something called unburdening, and that really helps with relapse prevention. It's also a psychospiritual model. I'm not going to go into it too much, but I felt that the fact that it was a psychospiritual model really melded well with my 12-step work that I was doing, and I really like that. As a matter of fact, people that come in from program are some of my best clients. They really resonate with working this way. Another piece is that we do a lot of work on the self of the therapist. A lot of the new literature is showing that it's that relationship between the therapist and the client that really makes the difference in how we work. And my old mentor, before I knew about IFS, used to ask me about what was going on with me when I was working with clients. And I was like, why would he ask me that? And then I would answer, And then I came to realize, as I got more introduced to my own parts, how much I really influence what goes on in the field. I mean, if I'm sitting in a chair and someone's talking with me and I just look over like this a little bit, you know, there's a meta message. And maybe I was looking over to see the time, and if the person is really astute, they're going to pick up on that. They pick up on that energy, and they might see that I looked away, and a part of them might say, she's not interested in me, right? The person might come in with like all kinds of stuff going on, and I might be saying in my head, oh wow, what a mess. Wow, that person's such a mess, and they're never going to get out of it, you know? And how am I ever going to help them fix it? So I have like sort of a hopelessness, and then their hopelessness might come up. They might say, oh, I'm never going to get out of this. It's so terrible. My life is so bad. And I might say, yeah, maybe I should refer you out. So my parts are in the way. Instead of, if I get my parts to step back, I might say, it sounds like there's a party that's really hopeless with the way things are going. And then they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, so would you be interested in finding a new way? I know that you don't believe it now that there's a way out of, you know, your horrible addiction, but there is. And I know lots of people that have made it. Would you be interested in knowing more about that? So that's how I would work, you see, just like giving them hope, being a hope monger. But if my parts are in the way, that's not possible. You know, that happens a lot when I train students too. They feel overwhelmed because they don't have a lot of experience, and their first thought is, you know, to refer people out, so or terminate them from treatment. I don't even like the word terminate. It sounds negative. So the other piece is we do work with external family systems as well, and we work with family members' parts, because in the treatment field, they can really sabotage people's recovery. So with IFS, I can work deeper with the external family system. And I was just telling someone that I'm going to start working on a, I don't know when, you know, but this is on my plan, to work on a IFS-based intervention protocol. You know, I was trained in intervention before, and doing intervention Vernon Johnson way, and then doing more compassionate family-oriented intervention, and now I'm interested in how can I integrate, you know, parts work with that to make intervention even more effective.